something and it's picked up, you'll probably end up in the minutes of this hearing. So please keep that, any sidebars or things like that to a minimum. Let me know whenever you're ready. My name is James Knox. I'm an attorney with the Department of Community Supervision, and I work in the Office of Legal Services. Today is January 17th, and it's about 10 a.m. This is the public hearing on the proposed board rules for the Department of Community Supervision and the Misdemeanor Probation Oversight. The public notice was issued by Commissioner Nail on December the 15th, 2016. The notice is incorporated into these proceedings. Pursuant to the official code of Georgia 5013-4, the Department of Community Supervision is required to give public notice of any action that will adopt, amend, or repeal board rules. The public comment period will expire at close of business today, which is 5 p.m. Citizens wishing to comment in writing on the proposal should do so before 5 p.m. today. To the Department of Community Supervision, 2 Martin Luther King Jr. Drive, Southeast, Suite 458, to the attention of Barbara Neville, City of Atlanta, 30334. Comments may also be submitted via fax to 404-860-1446 or via email to aura.russell, RUSSELL, @dcs.ga.gov. At the conclusion of the comment period, all oral comments presented today will be transcribed and provided to the Georgia Department of Community Supervision Board, along with a copy of any written comments we've received. If you wish to make an oral comment, please sign the appropriate roster. At this time, I'll go down the roster and give each person who signed in an opportunity to speak. I'll stop now and ask, did anybody get missed that wanted to sign the roster? I have 3 names at this time. Mr. Steve Page, John Prescott, and Akiva Friedline. Is there anybody here that did not sign in that wanted to sign the roster to make a comment? Okay. I ask you to please limit your comments to 10 minutes and keep your comments limited to the issues that directly relate to the proposed public notice. At the end of your 10 minutes, if you have not completed your presentation, I will ask you to do a brief closing and you'll be able to submit the remaining comments in writing. Okay. With that said, I will call on the first person who has signed up to speak. That's Mr. Steve Page.
Thank you. Only comment I have is on Rule 105-2-113, probation ending report. I'm requesting that it be changed from due on the 15th to the last day of the month, due to just logistics of getting those reports done in a timely manner. So I'm just asking that it be changed from the 15th to the last day of the month. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Page. Mr. John Prescott.
I'm here. Good morning.
Yes, sir.
Just to piggyback on that, that was going to be my comment, the rule that Mr. Page just asked about, and on behalf of the Community Corrections Association, we would concur with his request to allow for 30 days for those reports.
And Akiva Friedline?
Friedland.
I'm sorry, Friedland.
That's okay.
Sorry.
Should I stand at the podium?
You're more than welcome if you like.
A little more lengthy than these gentlemen, though hopefully not too long. Thank you, Mr. Knox, and also to the members of the board who will be watching this for the opportunity to be here. My name is Akiva Friedland. I'm an attorney at the Southern Center for Human Rights. I know that I speak for my colleagues and our executive director, Sarah Tatanchi, when I say that we're very grateful for the work of this body and the misdemeanor probation oversight unit. I've attended many of the board and subcommittee meetings, and I know that what I've seen represents just a fraction of the many, many hours that have gone into developing these rules. As you know, the Southern Center for Human Rights works on many aspects of criminal justice reform, and for over a decade, we've worked on issues related to misdemeanor probation, and we've been particularly focused on changing the policies that make it more likely that low-income people will be sentenced to probation and make it harder for them to complete probation successfully. We welcome the opportunity to offer these comments on behalf of the people who call on the Southern Center for help when they or their loved ones encounter these stumbling blocks. We applaud the board's commitment to faithful implementation of the legislature's decision to ensure that low-income Georgians, who are often sentenced to probation merely because they cannot pay their fines immediately, can fulfill their obligations without the threat of being jailed for inability to pay. We strongly believe that a probation provider's general responsibilities do include abiding by the statutory and constitutional protections for indigent probationers, and we hope that providers will take heed of the reminders included in the new Rule 105-2.11. We're pleased to see that service agreements must include provisions for handling pay-only cases and consecutive sentences, and must list all fees and charges to be collected at 102-8.08A12. We'd further suggest that that rule make it explicit that no additional charges are to be imposed unless required by law and ordered by the court, bringing it in harmony with other rules such as 105-2.15. More broadly, we hope that the DCS board, courts, and probation providers will ensure that community service is a present and realistic option for people, possibly by outlining the appropriate scope of community service options in provider contracts. Many people who earnestly wish to convert their fines or fulfill their sentence obligations, have trouble doing so, and in some courts, probationers are not allowed to perform community service at schools, hospitals, or houses of worship. This contributes to cases like a revocation hearing that I observed in October, where a young man told the judge that he'd recently quit his full-time job and started working part-time so that he'd be able to complete the last 29 of 240 hours of community service he'd been sentenced to. Situations like these seem counterproductive to the aims of justice and of our courts. Finally, we know that many probation providers are working very hard to provide their services while complying with the law. But our experience over the past decade and through the present day affirms the need for robust rules and vigorous enforcement. We're still seeing revocation petitions filed when low-income people are unable to pay, and we're seeing people thrown into jail for non-payment until a loved one begs or borrows enough money to pay for their arrears. We get the calls and we see the cases all over the state. Georgia's uniquely situated private probation companies collect tens of millions of dollars in fees each year for the public service they provide. And we know that private providers have strong financial incentives to pressure indigent probationers into going to extraordinary lengths to pay. This is why we were disappointed to see the DCS board's sanction authority weakened in a last-minute amendment just before the rules were adopted. The draft proposed by DCS included a maximum per violation penalty of $10,000 as a sanction, along with a sound appeals process. Now the maximum penalty has been halved to $5,000, which tips the seesaw of financial incentives further in the wrong direction. We believe this unfortunate change calls for even greater diligence and vigilance on the part of Misdemeanor Probation Oversight Unit, the DCS Board, and the probation providers who are committed to upholding the law and the highest ideals of their profession. Members of the board, Mr. Knox, thank you again for your work and for the opportunity to offer these comments.
Anyone else? Some people have come in since we've started. Is there anyone else that wishes to make a comment on the proposed board rules? All right. I want to say thank you for coming today and providing input. I want to reiterate that the public comment period for proposed changes will end today at 5 p.m. As I indicated earlier, written comments will be entered into the official record, as well as the transcription of the oral comments that we have heard this morning. Thank you once again for your attendance. There being no further person who wishes to make a comment, this public hearing is adjourned. Thank you.